Hello again. I think it's fair to say that there is an awful lot wrong with the modern world. Sometimes it is difficult to work out whether there are simply a load of unconnected problems, just random things which we don't happen to like, or whether there is one big thing causing most of the things we think are bad. Some people think that racism is such a theme which links together lots of stuff, while other people believe that capitalism or religion are the common thread running through those things which they find unpleasant and undesirable. For my own part, I think that globalism is at the root of many of the ills of the world as it is today. The idea of globalism is not in itself a bad one, and it is certainly not a new concept. There have always been people who have asserted that if only we could live in a world without borders, with free and unrestricted trade and movement of people wherever they pleased, then this would be a great beginning to ushering in a worldwide utopia. Imagine if the nation state withered away and we had a world government. No more wars, no regional rivalries, no empires, perhaps even no armies. What a marvellous vision. It'd be a bit like a real life version of the John Lennon song, Imagine. This is where we run into the first difficulty, because abolishing borders between countries cannot, of course, be done all over the world at once. So we must begin with a small group of countries which all agree on such an arrangement and then simply keep adding countries to that group. This would be a good step on the road to having a unified world without frontiers or borders where everybody shares everything. Of course, when we see how this works out in practice, it's not such an attractive prospect. Think about the European Union, which began with this very dream. It was great. We'll start off with half a dozen countries, we'll abolish the borders, and let everybody move freely between those countries: Italy, France, West Germany, Britain. People will be able to live and work in any part of that union. That's great with just half a dozen well developed industrial nations in Western Europe. Did anybody really fail to foresee that this would in practice mean that as this bloc of countries without frontiers expanded and added poorer countries, that it would in practice mean that loads of people in the poor countries like Romania and Bulgaria would want to go and live in the richer countries like Britain? How precisely has this worked to our advantage? The more countries that are added to these blocs, the greater the movement from the poor countries to the richer, which is quite common sense, really, when you think about it. The news is that the European Union is set to expand once more, again with the ultimate globalist aim of doing away with even more borders. Turkey is now pressing for membership again, and there's every possibility that it will be allowed to join the European Union. What do viewers think will be the result if that happens? That if there's freedom of movement between Turkey and Western Europe? Will it mean millions of Turks charging over to Western Europe? I'm guessing yes. This nascent globalism, a large bloc abolishing frontiers with the aim of doing away with individual countries, is at the back of our current crisis with illegal immigration, of course. At one time, an African landing illegally in Italy would have either been deported or he might just possibly have been able to hang on in Italy, but he would have been stuck there without a passport because there were very strict border controls between Italy and neighbouring countries. So if you wanted to travel from Germany to France or from Italy to somewhere else, you needed to turn up at the border post and show your passport. Because of the Schengen Agreement, there are no borders really within Europe now, which means that with no border restrictions, any refugee who reaches Italy or Greece can make his way straight to Calais and then hop on a boat to come here. That's globalism in practice. Then too, commercial globalism has given the kiss of death to Britain's factories because cheap foreign manufactured goods are traded freely and we can't produce things as cheaply as they can in the Far East. It looked good on the face of it, but it means that we no longer have jobs in this country for factory workers. Removing barriers between countries really leads to simple consequences. It doesn't result in us all living happily together in one great multicultural paradise, a bit like the illustrations in literature produced by the Jehovah's Witnesses. What it actually means is that unelected individuals take control of large blocs like the European Union, and then they take control of the lives of people living in the former countries in that bloc. This is, of course, why we in Britain voted to leave the EU 7 years ago. It also means that many of the people from the poorer territories will rush to the richer countries and cause a housing crisis as there won't be enough places for them to live. We're seeing that in this country at the moment, of course. These people from poorer places will then create ghettos, something else which we see. From the point of view of Britain, globalism has produced a raft of negative effects and very little which is of benefit to British people themselves. It's at the root of most of the evils which we see today in Britain, including problems with housing, crime, unemployment, and the National Health Service, to mention but a few.